Friends, on this Priesthood Sunday, I feel very happy that our seminarian Pedro comes home for the weekend and he visits us today together with his friend. Pedro, would you please stand? And I believe Griffin, Alexander, who also, there they are. These are the two seminarians. It's good having you with us. Welcome. Yeah. So, please pray for vocation. I told you that our parish, God is asking of us 100 vocation, 50 priests and 50 religious. Currently, we have already currently we have 5 in formation, 3 for studying for our young men, studying for our diocese, and 2 are into religious community, and about 7 who are seriously thinking about applying. So that's 12. We got 88 more to go. Pray hard. Pray hard. Now, friends, I love Jesus' parable because his parable, the story that he tells us, always have a surprising twist. Jesus, if he was playing baseball, he always throw out curveball to surprise us. And today's parable is one of those. And I have to confess, Lord, forgive me. When I was praying this parable, I was thinking to myself, Jesus, if you were living here in Fulshear, I would never hire you as our business manager. Let's look into the story. So here's the landowner. Now, in the time of Jesus, they would grow these huge grapevine. And when the grapes are ripened, when it's time for the harvest, they have to work really hard and really fast because when the first rain comes, it can destroy the grapes and it affects the way good wines are made. So, owner, like the vineyard owner today, he would be prepared for the day of harvest and they would work the earliest they could. Remember, in the old day, they did not have electricity like we do. So they'll start as soon as the sun rises and they can see it, which is around 6 a.m. And they'll work all the way to when they can't see anymore, when the sun sets, so about 6 p.m. So here this owner, he goes out. Now, in the public square, there's people who, during the time of the harvest, would go out there, hoping they would get work so that they can get either, most of them, they don't have permanent jobs, so they go out looking for work or extra income for their family. So he comes out at 6 a.m. in the morning, and there is already people there waiting. So these are the very strong, hard-working people waking up early looking for a job. And they must be so happy because they got up really early and they got their job. Went home and they worked hard. The owner goes back out again at 9 a.m. and then at noon and then at 3 p.m. and only an hour before it ends, at 5 p.m., he goes out. Now notice, he goes out at 5 p.m., and there's some people still standing there. He said, why are you standing here idle, doing nothing? They said, because nobody hired us. Now notice, these are not the strongest people. Because when you go out to find people to work hard labor, you want to find some strong people. It's kind of like the priest versus seminarian basketball, you know? I mean, they go out and they ask for the David Michael, for the Christopher, for the Preston. 4 years I waited, they have not asked me yet. I truly believe that's the reason why for 4 years they've lost to the seminarians. They should at least recruit me as the water boy, no? Anyway, so I'm like one of those people at 5 p.m., because I'm not that tall, that strong. But he said, no, go work. So they brought them in. And here's the thing that drives me crazy. At the end of the day, this landowner goes up, he lined them all up at 6 when they are done. Here's the people who are weak, not as strong, nobody hired them. Work only 1 hour in the cool evening. Line them up, the 3, the 12, the 9, and the 6 a.m. Who worked really hard all day in the heat, which is worse than even Texas heat in the Holy Land. Then he started with the people that work little first. He paid them 1 denarius, which is 1 day of salary. And he goes to the 6 a.m. people. He paid them the same thing. Does that make you mad? That makes me mad. I mean, if I was Jesus, I would at least, okay, well, I'll pay these people first, and I want to help these, I'll quietly give them, right? But he, like right in front of them, he does that. That makes me so mad. But that is precisely Jesus' point. He wants to agitate us to bring his point across. Because these people here are not happy, and they grumble against the landowner. And the landowner tells them this. I promised you I'll pay you 1 denarius, didn't I? And I'm paying you what I'm supposed to pay you. Can't I be generous with the people who only work for 1 hour? Can't I be generous with my own money? And he asked this question. He asked this question to them. Are you envious? I want to make sure I read it. Are you envious because I'm generous? That's the question that Jesus is asking every one of us. Everyone, do me a favor. Look to the person next to you and ask them, are you envious or jealous? Do that. Look to the person next to you. Ask them, are you envious or jealous? Okay. All right. Okay. Now, who wants to ask me that question? Yeah? She's asking me if I'm envious or jealous. You think the priest is envious or jealous? How many of you think I'm envious or jealous? Raise your hands. I won't hold it against you in confession. Nobody. Oh, some of you. You bet I am envious and jealous. The seminarians know. I remember when I take it back. I'm not envious and jealous. I just attack. In the seminary, when we had these guys, I used to study so hard, like hard. And there's like this 1 or 2 guy who's so smart. They don't study. And then last minute, they just read over their note. They go in, and they made an A. We want to find a way to kill those guys. Right? When Father David Michael was here, you remember? I worked so hard for hours, months, to play one song on the piano, on the guitar. This guy come in, he played 5 instruments with 5 different limbs. I got so mad, I fed him durian, the stingy fruit, you know? Yeah, you bet you. That's so much a part of who we are. The thing is, many times we find ourselves, especially in our world, young people, teenagers, high school. It's hard to be a young people because you always find yourself easily comparing. Nowadays, with social media, Facebook, TikTok, those short things, right? We go through it, and people post their most beautiful Kodak moment. Sometimes they took like 100 pictures, and they pick out one, and they crop it, and they put it up there, and they look so happy and so good. And we compare our worst moment to their one Kodak moment that has been photoshopped. And we think we're missing out in life, and we're miserable. Comparison makes us miserable, makes us resentful. Comparison makes us losing a lot of our self-confidence and self-esteem. Looking down, it can lead to anxiety and depression. Comparisons rob us. It is the thief, as someone say, of joy in our lives. And that's exactly what happened to the people who came out at 6. They grumbled. Remember, in the morning, they came out early looking for work, and when they got it, they were so happy. And here they are at the end of the day, when they receive to go home and celebrate, they grumble. They feel with resentment and angry as they compare themselves. And so we do find ourselves. Are you envious? And it's very human. Read the scriptures from day one, from the book of Genesis all the way down to the disciples. That's very much a part of our human struggle. I wrote down 3 things from today's scriptures to propose for us to carry with us this week. First is to, as we find ourselves maybe comparing, first is to be realistic. Be realistic. What you see in other people's life is not necessarily the real life. Everybody hurts. Everybody struggles. Everybody have their own pain, one way or another. These people standing over here, they're looking at the people who, why do they work only hour? And they get the whole denarius. But they forget to see these people that come out at 5, it's going to be a struggle for them to keep finding way to provide for their family because they're not as strong. They may be sickly. They don't see that. All they see is, why do these people have all these things right now and I don't? But they struggle. Everybody struggle. You see, people used to comment, oh, Father Dad, how do you smile all the time? Or you even see all these great things from Father Michael. I live with the guy. I see some of his misery, and he see a bunch of my miseries. That's why we need Priesthood Sunday to pray for us priests. Everybody struggle. What we see is sometimes not the reality. We have to remember that it's not, no, everybody struggle. Be realistic. We have our own life. They have their own life. We have our own joy. They have their own joy. Secondly, if I may propose, is that we want to live when we find ourselves comparing, live in the present moment of gratitude. The owner told the people at 6 o'clock, he said, take what you have and go. Go celebrate the fact that you are able to have this money that you so much wanted. Celebrate it. Give thanks for it. Go celebrate the fact that you are a lot stronger. You're a lot more disciplined. You are gifted, even though you don't get more than you want. But you can work for many years. Give thanks to God for that. Don't miss out. Give thanks to God that even though I may not have the other gifts, but in this world of the population of about 8 billion people, there is not one single person in this world that is like you. Give thanks to God for the fact that even in my worst loss and struggle and suffering, there's still things to give thanks to God. And that's why we gather on Sunday. That's what the Eucharist is about, to give thanks. In a little bit, when we start over here, I say, the Lord be with you and with your spirit. Lift up your heart. Let us give thanks to the Lord our God. We come to give thanks. Even when it hurts, we give thanks to God. Live in the present moment, not in comparing to the unrealistic happiness of somebody else, but our own present gifts and joy. And then thirdly, my thoughts are not your thoughts, and my ways are not your ways, says the Lord in the reading of Isaiah. Because God sees us, not based on what we can do, how we look, what we can accomplish. God sees us very differently than the way the world measures or sees us. Very different. We look at how Jesus said, the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. I remember, I look at our young people, I look at you. You have so much. You have video game, you have internet, and sometimes you may not be happy. And I see children, including myself. I grew up in Vietnam. There's no electricity. There's no toys. We have to, but I have so much fun going out to the field, looking for crickets, making kites with old school paper and sticky rice. And those are some of the happiest moments in our life. Many times, the deepest joy and happiness doesn't come from the great vacation somewhere, or money, or things that we have. the deepest joy is very differently. I was praying over this, and I think of priests. They may not have this big, growing parish. They may not be as eloquent as the Bishop Baron. They are so humble, serving the poorest of the poor, and I so admire them, and they're so happy. Happiness comes from when we know God, when we live for God and for others. Because His way is not our way. I think of some of the children I love so much in this parish. They may be struggling with an illness, with a disability, but you look at them and they are filled with God's love and joy and want to hug them every time. And I so admire them. And there it is, God invites us to do that. So I was taking a moment and said, Lord, help me to live now. I started naming the things that I'm blessed with, and I'm so filled with awe and gratitude. And so, friends, there it is for us. That's our invitation. Give thanks to God. Give thanks in this Eucharistic celebration. And throughout this week, be attentive. When those comparing voice comes, take a moment to be realistic, to give thanks, and to allow God to see us as who we are, not the way the world sees us.